Well, hello. So here we are. So we're going to do 9.6 today. In 9.5, you were learning to factor ax squared plus bx plus c when a was 1. But now a is going to be not 1. How's that? Anything like 2 or 4 or 6 or 1/2 or whatever. So you're going to learn how to factor that. Okay? So first of all, again, here's a. That's a general form of the quadratic kind of equation that you're seeing. And so far you've done it where a is 1. Now it's not going to be 1. So what I want you to do just as a warm-up is to find the product. Remember we talked about how the word product is to multiply. And looking at what you have to multiply here, you can either use the box or you can FOIL. So take a moment to do these two. And then I also want you to write down in 1 or 2 sentences what we did in section 9.5. Use your notes if you need to. Take a minute to look back at your notes and write down what we did in those 2 sections in words. Okay, so this is hopefully what you got when you did those 2 problems. I made the box. I put 3x plus 3 here, 2x minus 3. This is the box, and this is what you get when you combine the like terms. Same thing here, 2y plus 3, 2y plus 1. When you do the box, you end up getting this. And then hopefully you said something like, in section 9.5, we learned how to factor and solve trinomials when a equals 1. All right, so here we go. Remember, the general form of a polynomial is ax squared plus bx plus c. And you'll notice here that a, that's that leading coefficient, is 2. So it kind of changes the way you factor things. So you still generally do it the same way. You still start with your box. You put the first term in here still, 2x squared, and the last term down here, just like we did before. Okay. Now you have to do your diamond. Now I'll be honest with you. I got kind of tired of making the diamond, so I just made an X. And we'll call it a diamond. In the first part up here, what changes this time is you have to take and multiply the A times the C. See, this is your A, and your C is at the end. And that's what you put up on top here, 12x squared. Down on the bottom, you still put the middle term, negative 13x. And then you still treat it the same way, the diamond. What multiplies together to give me 12x squared and adds together to give me negative 13. So it's got to be negative 12x and negative 1x. You know it had to be 12 and 1 of some sort. And I had to make them both negative to add to that. So then, those are, of course, what goes in your boxes here. So you put those in there, negative 12x, negative 1x. And then you do the same thing. You look at the first row and you see what you can divide out. This time you got numbers involved. You can take a 2 out of both of those numbers and an x out of both of those. So I'm going to divide out a 2x. And then I go around the square just like you did before. Okay, so in the first one here, to go from 2x to 2x squared, I had to multiply by x. This box right here, to go from 2x to negative 12x, I had to multiply by negative 6. This box down here, I had to multiply x by negative 1, and then negative 1 times negative 6 gives me 6. So now I have my factors. So it's not too different. And this is your answer right here. Those are your factors of that trinomial right there. Okay? All right, let's try another one together. So, again, you just set up your box. You put the first term in the upper left box, like always. You put the 4 down here. And then I'm going to make my X, or your diamond, however you want to look at it. I'm going to do 3a squared times 4 and that gives me 12a squared. The middle term goes down here. And then I got to think about what multiplies together to give me 12a squared and adds together to give me 8a. I know that factors of 12 are 3 and 4. That doesn't work. 6 and 2. Oh, that works. So 6a, 2a. That's what goes in here. 6a, 2a. Let's see what I can divide out. From the first row, I can take a 3 out of that number, and I can take an a out of here and an a out of here. So I'm going to take 3a out of there. Then I go and look at this box right here. What did I multiply 3a by to get 3a squared? And that's just a. This box here, I got to multiply 3a by 2 to get 6a, so 2 goes here. And then I'm going from up here to down here. I got to multiply a by 2 to get 2a. 2 times 2 is 4. All right, so here's my factors. A plus 2 and 3a plus 2. Let's just pause for a moment and realize they are not asking us to solve here. They're just asking us to come up with the two binomials that would equal that when you multiply them together. We're not solving. We're not setting equal to 0 for this one. Just factoring. Okay, here we go. Let's try another one. We have 4s squared minus 9s plus 5. Again, I'm going to start it the same way and put the 4s squared here, the plus 5 here, draw my X or my diamond, whatever we want to call it, and I have to multiply 4 times 5, and that's what goes on the top, 20s squared, and then 5 goes in the bottom. And I got to think of factors that would multiply to 20 and add, excuse me, not 5, it should be 9s, I apologize. They multiply to 20 and add to 9s. Negative 9s. Boy, I am tired, apparently. See the middle term here is negative 9s. That's what should go down here. Okay? So factors of 20 that would multiply to 20 and add to negative 9. So I know 4 and 5 are factors of 20. So 4 times 5 gives me positive 20, but 4 times 5 gives me a negative 9. So maybe I need to do negative 4s and negative 5s. That would work. So I'm going to put those in there. All right, and I'm going to look at the first row and say, okay, I can divide a 4 and an s out of both of those. You could do negative, it doesn't matter. And then I'll look at the first box up here. 4s times s will give me 4s squared. 4s times what would give me negative 4s? That would be negative 1. Negative 1 times 4s would give me negative 4s. 5 times negative 1. Oh, negative 1 times negative 1 gives me 5. I made a mistake. Did anybody catch it? This is an s, not a 5. So this should be negative 5 right here. That makes more sense because when I checked my last box, it did not multiply to 5. Now it does. So these are my factors, s minus 1 and 4s minus 5. Those are my factors right there. Okay? Now, instead of doing this one, which you would do the same way, I'm going to have you change it to this problem right here, 2n squared minus 2. And you need to factor that. Now, the first thing I hope that you notice is that it is not a trinomial. So you're not going to use the box. If you have to factor this, all you're going to do is you're going to look at each term in a binomial and say, what do they have in common? The only thing they have in common is 2, so I'm going to undistribute a 2, and I get n squared minus 1. Okay, and then I've gone as far as I can. This is a fact, these are factors of that right there. So you're done, you can't go any further. Remember, this 2 is a factor. We just don't put parentheses around it. It doesn't look exactly the same. But we write it like this. The same thing. Okay? All right, let's go to the back. Okay, we have a little something here that you need to see. Okay, factoring when A is negative. Always factor out a negative 1 from each term and then factor the resulting trinomial. It just makes life a little easier. And we're going to get to that down here. Let's just try this one and see what happens. So I'm going to set up my box, still put the first term here, the last term here, set up my x. 2h squared times negative 7 is negative 14h squared. Positive 13h goes down here. Factors of 14 that are going to multiply together to get negative 14 and add to get positive 13. The only thing that would work like that is this. That's it. They add together to give you positive 13. So I'm going to put 14h, negative 1h, and then I'm going to look at the first row and divide out a 2h because I can from both of those. Then this would be h. This up here would be 7. 2h times 7 gives me 14h. This has to be negative 1. And then negative 1 times 7 gives me negative 7. Alrighty. So there's my factors. So there's the factors for that. Alright, let's do one of these that has a negative 1. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to divide out a negative 1 because it's going to make my life a lot easier. So from each term, I'm going to divide out a negative 1. And I will end up with this. Negative 3 divided by negative 1 gives me a positive 3x squared. Negative 13 divided by negative 1 gives me a positive 13x. And negative 4 divided by negative 1 gives me a positive 4. And you can put the negative 1 out here if you want to. That's fine. And then I got to factor what's left inside here the same way I did everything else. So all I do is make my box, and I still put 3x squared here. I put 4 here. I make my x. 3x squared times 4 is 12x squared. 13x down here. Factors of 12 that add to 13. So I have 6 and 2. That doesn't add to 13. 4 and 3 doesn't add to 13. But 12 and 1 does. So I'm going to put 12x and 1x. Look at that first row. Divide out a 3x and an x. 3x times 4 would give me 12x. This is just a 1 here. So now I'm going to write the factors up here. Negative 1 is a factor because it would be involved in multiplying this out to get that. So then I'm going to write x plus 4 and 3x plus 1. There's the factors there. Okay, we're going to stop here for the day. We'll finish these on Friday. What I want you to do is, if you don't have it already, you're going to get this worksheet from the substitute, and you're going to practice just the front page of this worksheet. You'll notice that these here have negative 1 in the front, so you're going to divide everything out by negative 1. So you start with that. And then these are where A is not 1. So then you're going to do the whole procedure like I just showed you. Alrighty, and have it done by Friday. All right, signing off.